here we are in the kitchen garden, getting ready to clean up and move into the greenhouse. So we've got a lot of our things harvested here. So any tomatoes that were starting to turn color there, I harvested those, and all the bell peppers, a bunch of zucchini, and a lot of stuff I'm going to leave out here. So it looks like we will get our first frost tonight, and so I want to get these peppers moved into the greenhouse. These are a indeterminate plant, so these bell peppers, I think they're California wonders. They will continue to grow as long as you keep them out of the frost. They don't freeze to death. They'll just keep growing and growing and growing. And so we can take a bunch of these. I might take maybe 10 of them, 10 of the nicest ones out of here and put them in the greenhouse. We're going to try to get them to go through the winter. The tomatoes are a determinate, so their fate is determined. They die off every year, and whatever fruit they have at that point, they will finish off, and then they'll kind of die away. So all the tomato plants were cleaned up. Everything that we took out of the greenhouse and everything we took out of the garden here all goes out to Virginia the pig, or the other 4 pigs that we have, or the chickens, or the goats, or the cow, just depending on what will eat what. Most of it went out here for Virginia. She'll eat that stuff for a couple days. But a lot of this stuff we'll just leave out here. So we've got all these green beans. We have so many green beans in here. I haven't even had a chance to come out here and harvest them. So a lot of these we will let go, and I'll grab them when they dry up for seed. The carrots, those can stay right here. They'll survive. They may survive a frost or two. Sometimes I've had carrots that will go through a few frosts. But the carrots that are in the ground, they're fine. You know, whatever it is, if the plant dies off, the carrot's still fine in the ground. In fact, it's cold weather will keep them preserved. The cucumbers here, they've all died off. The cool nights did not agree with them, but we got a few few little pickles here. nothing really produced a full-size cucumbers, but that's okay. We've got all these beans. Now these are kidney beans and other types of beans that we'll let these die off out here and let them dry out over the next few weeks. We did get a few small squash, and actually I think that'll work. That'll be a good size to eat. They do get quite a bit bigger than that, but that's just fine. So we'll harvest those out. And we have a few more on the vine here. I'm not going to pull these plants yet. We'll see how they take the first frost here. They probably will die off, but we'll see what happens. And a lot of these kidney beans and stuff like that, these will all just stay, and we'll let the bean pod kind of dry out here, and then we'll harvest all of these. Not the spider. We'll harvest all these out, let them dry out, and then we'll have kidney beans for chilies and other things. And these are definitely grew really well. And we've got a bunch more carrots out here. These are too small. They're really not gonna produce too much for us. I mean, you know, that's about as big as they are. So you could snack on those, I suppose, but instead we'll probably feed these to our little bunnies here. They don't care how big they are. To dig out some of the best pepper plants here, put them in the wheelbarrow, take them back to the greenhouse, transplant them, and we'll go through the greenhouse setup. So this is the heated log raised bed, and this is where we are going to be growing all winter long is the plan. So you'll notice I cut everything out of here and everything back. So this Swiss chard right here, I cut all that off, and you can see it'll just keep growing back. I've already cut it off several times this year. And look at the trunk on that thing. But it'll just keep coming back, and those outside leaves will die off, and you can see it kind of grows up through the center. And I like Swiss chard, not because we eat a lot of it, honestly, but the animals love it, and it just looks so nice in the garden, and it's just easy to grow. So I always grow Swiss chard, even though we very rarely use it. Sometimes we'll cut it out and use it for things, but not very often. And down here in the middle of the heated raised bed, this is a clementine tree. Now we have been growing this for probably 5 years. We bought this on Amazon, and it was shipped to us as just a stick. And you can see, now it's gotten pretty thick trunk on it, and it's been doing really well. I just pruned it all back, so it had almost died off when we brought it outside this summer. And I pruned it all back, and so now it's all just kind of regrowing. And so I'm going to see if I can get this to live through the winter out here. We have been moving it back and forth in our house, winter and summer, and it just has not produced very well for us that way in a pot. And so we've gotten a few clementines. I think a couple years we got a couple clementines out of it, and that was it. So we'll see if it does better in here. We'll see what happens. Same with the peppers. I pruned all these back, so I put all the pepper plants in there that we transplanted from the garden, and I just cut them all back for a couple reasons. Whenever I transplant something, I always want to make sure I take all the fruit off of it. So any of the peppers that were on these plants, I took them all off, and we'll cut them down. That way it'll pop out new leaves, and each one of these little crevices here, or little elbows, there'll be new leaves and new branches that'll start popping out of those. And that gives it a real nice sturdy trunk to support a lot of peppers. In fact, this one right here, you can see the leaves kind of popping out in there, and that one will continue to grow. That'll give them a nice stiff trunk, so I don't really need to support these anyway. I just cut the ones in the back there. Those ones have been growing since spring out here. In fact, since like March, I think, or maybe even February, in this heated raised bed, and those I've cut back and just pruned those back about a couple weeks ago. And so one of the eggplants I did keep. There was 3 of them in here. They were all overcrowded by the tomatoes, so they didn't really produce much this year, but we did get a few eggplant out of them. And so we'll see what happens. I've never eaten an eggplant, so I thought I would try it. I'm not sure why, but they're pretty cool looking, and the flowers are purple, so that's kind of a neat thing in here. You'll notice too, like there's a tomato in there, there's a bunch of stems and a bunch of stuff in here that when I'm cleaning out these beds, I just throw everything back in there, and we covered it with all fresh compost. So this is all compost manure that we dumped in here, and that's just sitting right on top. So there's a layer of organic matter down in there that the worms can get to. This composted manure has a bunch of worms in it, and doesn't have as many as I'd like, but I did see quite a few in the bottom layer that I was digging up. So they'll start to reproduce in here, and they'll start getting around, especially once the soil is warmed up by the sun. They'll be active and run around here, and they'll eat up all that stuff. I'm sure we'll probably get some volunteer tomatoes that'll grow up from that, but that's all right. And this is the heater that heats the raised bed. It is controlled by a little thermostatic outlet. I'm not going to go through all that today on how that all works. If you haven't been following along, I will link to the series on this whole build. And I built this whole thing. I built the fan heater and the whole hoop and the log raised bed and all that stuff in here. I did a whole series on it, so you can watch that and see how everything went together. But this is not running yet. It's going to get down to about 35 degrees tonight, and it will frost. And all this space here at the front, or I guess this is the back of the raised bed. This is the coolest end. The heater is down there. That's why I put all the hot weather stuff down at that end, and then this end stays a little bit cooler. This is where the wireless thermometer is, so I can make sure the temperature is okay in here at all times for my phone. And then I also usually put the temperature sensor down here that kicks the heater on. So when it gets down to about 40 degrees at this end, it's usually still a little bit warmer at the other end. And so this end gets a little bit cooler. So we're gonna come through and do another video on, we're gonna replant this whole bed out here, and it is October 14th today. So we are gonna plant this whole thing out, and we're gonna grow food hopefully straight through the winter time. If I have to shut down at all, I hope I don't. I hope that I'll be able to go straight through the entire winter. That's the plan, and grow food for to donate for the Farmers for Christ ministry, and also for ourselves, of course. So this is how we plan to grow food throughout the winter time here in Michigan, is using the heated raised bed. This is the first full winter that I've had this put together. I built this whole thing kind of last year through, I think it was like January, February time frame that I put this whole thing together and got it filled and got the heater in there and all that stuff. So I've not been able to run this thing for a full season yet. So I'm excited to see how well it works in super cold temperatures. You know, it gets down to -20, -30 a couple times in January, February here with wind chills and stuff like that. And so will this heater be able to keep up? Will we be able to keep this above 40 degrees? I just don't know. I don't know how well it's going to work. So yeah, I might be feeding this thing with a lot of wood. I don't know if we'll be able to keep up. So lots of ifs. Hopefully we'll be able to make it happen. But you guys will go along for the whole experiment. Can we grow food through the whole winter? I don't know. We'll we'll see. I hope so. If you guys have questions or comments about anything that we did today that I may not have talked about, please let me know. Throw it in comments. I'd love to hear from you guys. As always, don't forget to hit thumbs up and subscribe, of course, if this is your first time to the SSL Family Dad channel. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good one.